Thank you all for coming. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Here.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Here.
Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Councilwoman Weber.
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Councilman McPartlin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm now going to open up privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is now open. If anyone would like to speak, please approach the lectern, state your name and address for the record.
Amy Hawansky, 2833 Whitmire Drive. In full disclosure, I am a member of the Niskayuna Tree Council. The Tree Council recently held a community tree planting day on Ray and Cornelia Streets at the upper end of Union Ave. We planted about 13 trees of a few different types, and we have about 7 more to go because we had to wait for some of them to come in from the supplier. Some of the trees will have beautiful spring flowers, some will have amazing bright autumn foliage, and some will provide food for butterflies and birds. We selected the tree types based on site conditions and availability from growers. We also had to be aware of overhead wires, which limit the mature height of the trees. We tried our best to take advantage of a really cool program that allows us to get refund money if we plant smaller trees under electrical wires so that the National Grid company doesn't have to have as many issues in the future with tree limbs falling on wires. To prepare for the planting, employees from Ray Smith's Highway Department called Dig Safe to locate the underground utilities, picked up the trees from the supplier, kept the trees watered, and pre-dug the holes to save us time on the actual planting day. Then on planting day, Mike, and I believe his name is George, forgive me if that is incorrect, from the Highway Department, came out to help us with the installations. We had about 9 other volunteers from the Tree Council, the town, and the residents. Luckily, the weather was beautiful all day long, and we were able to install the trees that we had. Mike and George were a huge help throughout the day, and we'd like to say thank you to them and the other Highway Department employees who dug the holes, and Ray Smith for allocating his employees to help us during this already busy leaf raking season. Meanwhile, the Highway Department is installing other trees around town to replace ones that have fallen or were previously taken down. Plus, the Tree Council is working hard to update our tree installation list. And this is a list that indicates all the trees, types, all the different kinds that will work well within our specific community site conditions here so that we have a good diversity of tree species. I am explaining all of this to you so that you can really see how the Tree Council and the Highway Department are working hard to maintain and improve what is called our urban forest. To help us with that, I highly encourage you to vote in favor of the resolution to submit a community forestry grant application to fund a tree inventory project. Firstly, it is important to know what tree types and how many trees already exist in town before we make full plans for future installations. Secondly, several other grant programs which we could apply for in the future actually require us to have a tree inventory already completed before we apply for other tree project funds. In the future, we could apply for monies to allow us to buy and install trees or to host educational events to teach the public about tree importance and tree care. So at the next board meeting, please vote yes on the resolution to submit an application for a forestry grant. Thank you on that. Point 2, I am concerned about item number 10, which is the resolution to adopt a policy concerning content included in town board meeting minutes. At the last board meeting, Councilwoman Weber and Attorney Briggs commented that the Committee on Open Government does not require meeting minutes to include full statements or even any statements made by residents during privilege of the floor. Also, at the last board meeting, I spoke about my concerns on this issue and quoted a statement issued by that very same Committee for Open Government, which said, quote, "It is unlikely, in my view, that a town board has the authority to require exclusion of information from minutes of an open meeting. You, in your position as town clerk, have the responsibility and authority to prepare minutes and to ensure their accuracy," unquote. The town clerk is an elected position, and as such, she or he works for the residents of the town rather than working for the town board. Therefore, the board does not set policy about or requirements for the publication or content of meeting minutes. Rather, it is the town clerk who makes those decisions and is responsible for the correct reflection of what occurs at town meetings. To set a policy about what is or is not included in meeting minutes is to override the authority of the elected town clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Linda Rizzo, 2229 Fairlawn Parkway, Niskiuna. I'd like to first congratulate Supervisor Syed on your reelection. Bill McPartlin, I'd like to congratulate him on it. You've stayed above the fray, and I congratulate you. And also, I know that Michelle's not here tonight, but she did text me as she was leaving the area, and I also congratulated her. I was very pleased with her victory. I'm just going to say a few things tonight that has concerned me, and I'm saying this as a resident. And I have to admit, I'm saying it because I have some personal involvement in this. When I ran for election for town council, I think it was when Denise was running and Jonathan McKinney. It was on the Republican ticket. 4 days before the election, I was smeared throughout the community. 2 mailers went out. They didn't attack the supervisor that was running because he was not running high in the polls. I was the only one that showed any possibility of winning, even though I had 1 line. I could not respond in time when that happened. And it left a chilling effect for me, because when I was running at that time as a Republican, some of the higher-ups wanted to meet with me because my doctorate, I'm involved in administration and public policy, wanted me to point out the foibles of Joe Landry as supervisor so that they could send out a brochure. I refused to do it because at that time I believed Joe was doing a good job, and there was no way I wanted to win a seat by smearing him. After the smear came out, I got a call from one of the Republicans higher up, and they said, "Linda, did you ever hear the expression, 'nice guys finish last'? Well, you finished last. You refused to smear, and yet you were brutally smeared. 2 mailers. Not the supervisor running with you, but you, to make sure you did not win." Well, I thought about it, and to this day, I would have done the same thing, even though it may have cost me a seat. This election, we got very bad smear campaigns, brochures. We got it against a guy who's only making $1,400 a year. That's all. He's not even running. And it quoted things in there that were not accurate. It went on a court case, a federal court case, that, to be very honest with you, at that time, the whole board supported the town, supported the people named in that court case, which included Mr. Fominski, and so did the supervisor. They wanted these people to win, and they did win. The jury voted against the sergeant that brought the charges. And then we dig this all up now and start quoting stuff that was supported at that time, that you agreed with the people in the town, with Fominski, and Moskowitz was the police chief. You wanted them to win, and now this came out. And maybe it's my bias, because I was smeared with lies and innuendos. They were disgusting. And I look back now, and then I get these things on this person, and my mouth dropped open. And I'm just asking, how important is it to win a seat if you have to do this type of thing? You know, nationally it's disgusting. It lowers the bar of integrity on a national level. What does it do on a town level? You know, when you smear someone, please keep in mind they have a family, they have children, they have neighbors. Do you realize the pain you cause when those things happen? So I am pleading with you, from a level of human decency, you've got to stop doing it. And if you think someone might win on the other side and the people might want them, don't smear them. Go on your record. And really, I'm very disappointed as a resident. It happened to me. I didn't smear. I get smeared, and then someone else gets smeared who's making $1,400 a year at the last minute. I'm very disappointed, and I'm ashamed. And you know, my last comment on this is, when you do that, you have a chilling effect on the vote. And philosophically, one might ask, did the people win legitimately? Because there are people that aren't thinkers in this town, only 40% voted, that read this garbage and they believe it. They believe it. So the next time you want to do something like that, think how you would feel. It happened to me, and I know how I felt. And when it happened to me, of course, everyone denied any knowledge, which was a laugh. So I'm asking you to really, let's stop doing this and think about families and sons and daughters and nephews and nieces, and stop hurting people. Even if you disagree with someone philosophically, you don't go after their reputation in a mailer. So enough said on that. I was going to say it at the next board meeting, but I can't be here. I have clients I have to meet. My next thing is, we also got a mailer, and this is for the budget too, that said the budget is like Swiss cheese full of holes. Now, I hope that's not true. Because first of all, no one has time to go through this budget to look at the holes. If this is true, and I'm asking you honestly as a resident, because I'm paying taxes here, have you done anything to close those holes? Or was that just another political nonsense type of jargon that you sent out? Is this a sound budget? Or is it like Swiss cheese full of holes? No answer? I have to ask you, Supervisor Syed, what is the story on this? I mean, you don't want to get this, I put it down as jargon, but then, hey, why would you send it out?
Right. It was political.
Okay, another political thing to win an election. Telling the taxpayers who are paying large taxes that possibly this budget isn't well formulated. So, in the end, please keep in mind, in smearing people, you hurt a lot of other people, and someone said 2,000 years ago, and I won't mention his name. Well, why not? Jesus said it 2,000 years ago. What does it gain a man to win the world and lose his soul? What profits a man to do that? I don't like it on the national level. I don't like the smearing on the national level. I don't like the name-calling on the national level. And certainly, I don't like it in our town. So when you want to do that, remember one thing. We all are a total sum of all our actions and our decisions. That makes us who we are. And I'm not a perfect person, but I hope that only 10% of my life might be dubbed negative and 80% or 90% positive. I don't want my sum total to be 50 or 60% negative, because that's who we are. Our actions and our decisions make us who we are. So thank you, and again, congratulations on those that won.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Bill Popino, 1027 Hickory Road. I wrote a letter to the editor to your Niskuna. I encourage you to read it when it comes out. It won't be this week, probably next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the new microphone. I can hear. Thank you very much. First of all, I didn't know you were having a special meeting. I had asked before if there would be any privilege of the floor, and they said no. So I'm delighted to be able to get my little saying over. I would like to congratulate the people who lost. Now, I say that because it's not easy. It's not easy to campaign. It's not easy, but there are rewards. You meet a lot of people. You go into towns that you may not know. And I think that people, newcomers, people that may have had a taste of the elected office, they always come back with something, whether it's a little humility, but I thank them. It takes time, it takes money, it takes courage, it takes tears and all kinds of things. So as far as the people that won, they won because they won. I'm very congratulations to those that won, but you need to look at the town codes. Who is in charge of the code enforcement officer? Who is in charge of someone that calls as a resident and says, there's illegal signs going up? 9:15, I called the code enforcement officer. We even had people go to the Board of Elections, and they also claimed that those ridiculous little signs, those little mushrooms that popped up all over the world, were illegal. They should have been taken down. I don't want Niskuna to be a trash town. I've had a lot of pride living here. I've loved the town. I've loved, I can agree with it or disagree with it and still say hello to everybody and give them a hug when it needs to be hugged. But I am telling you right now, for our code enforcement officer, who was directed to take down illegal signs, went to someone, and the person is not an officer, a person is in the town, and she refused to have that done. And I'm very upset with this, and I'm going to see legally what we can do about our town's codes, who knows them, who does them, and who is responsible for them. Now, any of you know anything about your codes? Do you know we can't have estate sale signs, garage signs, illegal car? Now, we don't know they're illegal, but if a neighbor has a car up, I had one across next door to me. He had a car up every other week. I said, Mr. Z, not Zabin, I said, where are you getting all these cars from? Well, finally, after a lot of things, we got that taken care of. But we are supposed to have a code enforcement officer. We are supposed to have a zoning officer. Now, these are things that the town board, whether it's you guys or somebody else or somebody before you, used to take care of. We had a wonderful guy. His name was Charlie Goldstock. And he'd take his little notebook and go out there, and somebody told me the other day, we have a basement full of signs. Well, let's get rid of them if nobody wants them. They're illegal signs. And when I see an estate sale sign or a garage sale, not on the property that it's supposed to be, I know Denise is nodding her head, she agrees, but they're there. They pop up on Friday and taken down Monday night or Sunday night. Now, I don't care. Tell the police to rip up those signs. And I'm just, you're so worried about zombie houses. And we're getting to be a trailer, trashy kind of town with signs that have no relevance. And then come election, you people are subject to the most disgraceful and intimidating. It makes me cry. It literally makes me cry. Don't you have any pride in how you want this town to appear? I do. I love Niskayuna. And the fact is that we are losing in our integrity and in our ethics. And I guess you want to get on with your public hearing. Thank you very much. There's much more to say. That will come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. I just want to speak in favor of the resolution that's on for tonight to establish a climate-smart community task force. I think it's a step in the right direction. And I would like the board to consider a sense of the board resolution to the president who is trying to pull us out of the climate accord.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Lemelin. I'm at 1106 Glen Meadow Court. I'll make my comments brief. I have stood before you in the past talking about different topics. I thought I would give you a quick update. First, to repeat some of the comments that were made earlier about the mailers. I'm personally disgusted with them. I've presented that opinion to you in the past. I also wrote a letter to the editor, so we'll see if they publish it, but I guess we'll see about that. We all, I think, feel like the mailers are just an insult to our town and to our ethics and to our political process. So that's number one. I am continuing to work on ethics reform with the town. I've had a couple of good meetings, including with the town attorney and the supervisor. I haven't got around to everybody yet, so please look forward to some meeting invites from me. I'm really looking forward to meeting with each of you on that. And again, I'm just trying to help. And then finally, I did see the agenda item on the board meeting minutes. I know it's a political process, but I think everybody's mailers, everyone's websites, everyone's political positions is transparency. And so while I clearly respect the attorney's opinion that he stated at the last meeting that we don't have to include attachments and things like that, I'm urging the board, don't change the policy, continue the most transparent that you possibly can be, and that to me means including the speakers, including notes about the speakers, summarizing their comments, and if they're bold enough to stand up and get on TV and present it to you, I think it's in the interest of transparency to allow that to be documented in the meeting minutes, and including an attachment if they're bold enough and brave enough to offer that. So that's my suggestion, and I think it's consistent with each one of your political positions around town transparency. I would hate to see the town go in the opposite direction and actually withdraw some of that transparency. So I urge you not to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to say something. Sorry. By the way, I am a nonpartisan voter. I do not vote a party line in Niskayuna. You know why? Because they're my neighbors. Niskayuna is my neighbor. And if I like you, you get my vote. If there's a problem, you don't get my vote. But I do want you to know that I am a nonpartisan, and I would like to see, if I don't know who to touch or find out about, I'd like to see villages and towns in New York State be nonpartisan. We're too small to hate each other. We're too small. We need to have a nonpartisan line. Get up there, run for the office, tell us what you're going to do to make it better, and then we'll make the decision whether to vote for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Gold, fast clarification, because I'm not sure in my effort to be concise that I was clear. I think the town should oppose withdrawing from the climate accord.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last call on privilege of the floor. If you would like to speak, do so now. Okay, seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close privilege of the floor, and we're going to move into our public hearing. Will the clerk please call the first public hearing?
A public hearing on the preliminary budget for the town of Niskuna for 2020.
Thank you. And this public hearing is now open. We did provide copies of the preliminary budget at the back of the room if you would like one. And the public hearing is now open.
Kevin Walsh, 2843 Whitmire Drive. I'm the chairman of Town Niskuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission, but I'm here speaking as a resident, 25-year resident of Whitmire Drive. I'm still concerned about the septage budget revenue item for SOAR District 6 at $530,000. That was in the tentative and the preliminary budget, and is still being shown tonight. I'm hoping we can minimize that, higher that number, the greater the increase, or the greater the decrease in my property values and impact on my quality of life on Whitmire Drive. So I urge you please to decrease that dollar amount to something that's reasonable. $530,000 is just way too much. And if you do pursue contracts, which my understanding is that you are pursuing contracts, please only take high energy waste so that you can minimize number of trucks. In other words, do everything possible to mitigate the revenue, the impacts of the revenue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Hawansky, 2833 Whitmire Drive. I am concerned that there was no notification of this budget hearing listed on the town website calendar. It simply says agenda meeting. Also, as of 2:27 this afternoon, when I checked the website, there was no agenda posted for the agenda meeting tonight, so residents were not able to check about a public hearing by referring to that agenda list. When I looked back later, I saw that the agenda, including the budget public hearing, was posted at 2:30, just a few minutes after I had last looked. Unfortunately, this does not leave a lot of time for residents to find that notification and then make plans to attend the hearing this evening. The town offers an email service whereby residents can receive important information via email, but notification about the budget hearing was not sent out that way either. The town did post a required notification in the legal notices section of the Gazette. Unfortunately, when I tried to search for any such notification, nothing came up. I called the Gazette and was told that the legal notices are not easily searchable from the website. Again, this makes it difficult for residents to learn about this public hearing. By posting the budget hearing notification on the town website calendar and sending it via email, the board shows respect for town residents by making the budgeting process more transparent. Thank you. Point 2, during budget workshops, the board discussed the possible projected revenues from acceptance of waste at the wastewater treatment facility. Over the past 2 years, Councilwoman McGraw, Councilman McPartlin, and Councilwoman Weber have repeatedly claimed that there would only be one truck delivering waste to the facility. They made these claims in small committee meetings, at board meetings, and also in articles in the newspaper. All along, I have been reminding people that ESG, the company who is coordinating this project, told residents that the ultimate number of trucks traveling down our narrow dead-end street would be 10 to 12 per day, meaning 20 to 24 passes as those trucks arrive and then leave. I have spoken repeatedly at small committee meetings, board meetings, and to the press that the claim of, quote, just one truck, unquote, was only for the first pilot program. But as soon as the town received their permit from the DEC, the plan was to increase the number of trucks to meet a full capacity of waste processing and therefore a full capacity of revenue generation. During budget meetings, board members discussed increasing the number of contracts with businesses so that they could bring in more waste products in order to collect more revenue. They also indicated that the trucks bringing the waste product would carry 6,800 gallons. We have asked repeatedly for accurate information about the proposed trucks. At first, we were given no information at all. Then we were told the town would hold back the size of the trucks to 5,000 gallons, But lo and behold, trucks for this purpose don't really come in that size. So we were then told that the trucks would carry 6,500 gallons. At the recent budget meetings, the town discussed that the trucks would actually carry 6,800 gallons. If the revenue budget line sits at the proposed $530,000 of revenue from the treatment facility, there will need to be 8 trucks per day minimum, meaning 16 passes down the road per day. If the budget is modified, as was discussed, to $350,000, which is the minimum guarantee by ESG, there will need to be 5 trucks per day, meaning 10 passes up and down the street. Residents must realize that these trucks will most likely be traveling along Route 7, then turning down Balltown, passing the co-op, turning at the GE Circle to travel along River Road, and finally make it to my street, Whitmire Drive. We residents have consistently said that green energy and reuse of waste products is an important thing to do to protect the environment. We have, however, objected to the way in which the project is being handled and the lack of proper planning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, can we test something? The live stream is not recording sound.
Oh.
But I'm wondering if it's just this microphone. Could you, Michelle, can I grab your keys and get in there and then we can.
Sure.
We can make it work and then we can. I just need keys to get back in.
We'll take a brief respite while we test the audio system.
Well, they should know it's happening if they're.
So Yasmin, can you just say testing, testing in the microphone? They can check the,
On mine,
yeah.
testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
So apologies, there's no sound on the live stream and it's not
Okay.
something that we can fix tonight.
Okay,
But we will upload the meeting at it's working on the other recorder, so we can upload
Okay.
it not live. Sorry
okay,
about that, guys.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for checking on that. Okay. The public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
This is John Level, and I'm 1106 Glen Meadow Court. 2 quick comments on the budget. First of all, congratulations. This is no small feat, I can tell, putting this budget together. Obviously, I mean, there's a lot of numbers here. I looked through it briefly. That a couple of the big numbers that you're already aware of, right, is the health insurance. It's unbelievable how big of an expense that is for you all, and a 1% fluctuation, and that is obviously going to be a big impact. And then the revenue, you hear a lot about the Whitmire Drive and the issues around the water treatment plant. If it truly, I mean, if we're having an issue with one truck a day, clearly we're gonna have an issue with 8 or 10 or 12 or more trucks per day. It's not specifically a budget issue, because I'd like to see the money in the budget that keeps the taxes down, but it seems like there might be another option, like some kind of remote pumping station, for example, where the trucks can get to easily 8, 10, 20 trucks a day, whatever you want, build a pumping station and just have a pipe go to the water treatment plant instead of the trucks. I know that's probably not rocket science, but that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. The cost of the health insurance was based on an estimate of what the increases were going to be. Do we have final figures yet? And if not, are we going to have them at least before you adopt the final budget?
We do have final figures. So the final figures came in at 17% increase.
So you're actually a little bit more than,
Correct.
that's not good news.
Right. I know. I agree.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
I told someone in the audience tonight that I thought all budgets were kind of phony because they really, during the year, we will do transfers, we'll do bonding, we'll do all kinds of little nuances in adjusting our budget that, of course, is not stipulated in the town budget. We have 4 major departments, starting with the police. Sewer and water, of course, as we know, has taken up an enormous, it's not just this time, it's been over 10 years, probably over 15 to 20 years, that our sewer and water plant was not sufficient. We had a moratorium under the past former supervisor of what, 5 years, 7 years? We couldn't build anything. We couldn't add to it. So I do understand that we had to do something in a hurry, and it hasn't really been sufficient. We've done nothing but pay, bond, raise fees. We have done everything. And yet, on the other hand, we are now, I would say, disgracing the people, the residents, the taxpayers who live on Whitmire Drive. I've driven down that street. That is an extremely narrow, if it's 30 feet, I'd be surprised. But it is a very narrow road. And if I had children and lived on that road, believe me, you'd be hearing a lot more than what you do here. So I think that those are major things that are, of course, not written in a budget. Budget's full of figures. They really don't mean anything, and you know it. We'll put a $10,000 increase in the legal department. What for? I mean, that's $10,000 up from last year. We're hiring more lawyers. You need any help there, Paul? Then as I go down, we've got little increases here. Nothing significant. Certainly we can handle that. But when this town had the nerve, several years ago, maybe it was 3 or 4, to raise a $5 fee on our waste. That was part of our taxes. The taxpayers paid to have their brush picked up, and then I think we've had another $5 increase. Big deal. The poor senior citizens, they had to come up with more money for the buses, little pittance here and there, more money for the luncheons. I mean, it is a disgrace what you're doing with our town taxes. Because you're not doing it, you are increasing it. And when you say that there's no tax increase, okay, I see the figure, but that's come January, we're going to start doing transfers. We're going to take money from the Parks and Rec, and we're going to put it over here. Or then we're going to take and hire every teenager in Niskayuna and every relative for the part-time jobs in recreation. We're going to find money to keep the pool. Unfortunately, Denise, that pool is ready to be collapsed every single year, and we put tons of money into it. That's not in the budget. But this is what we face every month, every 2 weeks that we have a town board hearing. And I'm simply saying that, doesn't anybody care? You're supposed to be leading us, helping us, doing things. And frankly, I see manipulation. I see overspending, overbonding. Now, we're at 42 million. I think that figure is even incorrect. I think it's much more than that. I really think we have to take a look at the town of Niskayuna and wonder if we are a town or we are a part of a county government that loves to rule Niskayuna. I'm upset about the Knott Street. I'm upset about this huge subdivision that's going up. And this is going to affect every one of us. It's going to affect our traffic. It's going to affect an expansion of a 14-square-mile town. I mean, it's like living in Scotia and putting an arterial through the main road. What the heck are you people thinking of? I thank you very much.
Thank you. The public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last call on the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak, do so now. Seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing. We're now going to move on to our singular resolution of the night, Resolution 2019-274, sponsored by Councilman Delarada and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to establish a climate-smart community task force.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes, and just briefly, I do want to thank all of these folks for their participation in this and becoming part of a climate-smart community. It's very important to a lot of our residents, but what is very important is that we participate in these committees. And many of the people that are joining this committee are also in other committees that include the Planning Board, the Conservation Advisory Council. So they help shape the policy that the town has, and the policies that many of you people speak of, a privilege of the floor, are discussed in these committee meetings. So we encourage all members of the town to join these committees because that's where you really can have the biggest impact on how the town operates. So with that, I do vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
That's 5 yeses.
And this resolution passes. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. If someone would like to move that forward.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I will second that motion. All those in favor signified by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Our special meeting is now adjourned. I'm going to call to order our agenda meeting. Who would like to begin? Who has number one? Ms. Paul, do you want to take these on? I think you have the first batch.
Paul, why don't you just come up and
Yeah. we'll
you don't
just
have to talk
roll
about
into
the
it.
ceremonial resolution. They really shouldn't be on there anyway.
First batch, I guess I'm sporadic here. Okay, number one is a ceremonial resolution honoring Jordan Frank for receiving a Girl Scout Silver Award. Number two is a resolution to appoint a student intern to work in the supervisor's office. And actually, we talked at finance about working through the summer. Obviously, we're going to need another one in January. Just a footnote.
Correct.
Number three, it's a resolution to adopt the final budget for the town of Niskiuna, adopt the preliminary budget with modifications for 2020, and 4 through 9 are the accompanying Sewer District 1, 6, Water District 1, all the drainage districts, lighting, and park districts throughout the town for 2020. Resolution, item number 10 is a resolution to adopt a policy concerning content included in the town board meeting minutes.
I'll speak to that, Paul. I spoke about this at the last town board meeting, and given the issues that have come before the town board recently with the inclusion or the request for inclusion of material that had nothing to do with governing, my office thought it was important to get some policy issues about that. And we obtained an opinion from the Committee on Open Government, and they said that the town isn't required to maintain a complete record of everything that's said, and that instead the town board need only need only record what action the town board takes. And it's my recommendation to the town board, consistent with that opinion, that the board adopt a policy that comments made during privilege of the floor will not be included as part of the meeting minutes, that written comments will be accepted for review, but will not be included in the minutes. And instead, the minutes will simply identify the nature and name and address of each speaker. I would point out that the complete record of the meeting, if anybody wanted to hear what was said, is available through our online system, and it's being recorded. With respect to the issues of the town clerk's duties, the opinion from the Committee on Open Government was very clear that the town clerk's job under the law is to attend all meetings, act as clerk thereof, and keep a complete and accurate record of the proceedings of each meeting. It's not the town clerk's duty to decide what is in those minutes. Town Law, Section 63 says that the town board may determine the rules of its procedure. And under subdivision 1 of Section 30 of the town law, it provides that the clerk shall have such additional powers and perform such additional duties as are or hereafter may be conferred or imposed upon her by law, that the town sets the procedures for what's to be included in the minutes. And it's the town clerk's job, and the only job of the town clerk is to record the minutes. So it's the town board's decision to make the policy, and it requires the town clerk under our law to follow the policies determined by the board. So it's a board decision, but it's my recommendation, given the climate that we've seen in the last 3 months, that we have minutes that are reflective of what's done to govern in this town, and that would require the minutes as I think they should be given, and eliminate the recording of minutes or the imposition into them or inclusion in the minutes of privilege of the floor comments. Thank you. And this was done, the supervisor asked my office to prepare a resolution, and we're doing that for action by the town board for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Item number 11, is this, do you want me to continue, or is this the?
She's standing up behind you. I think she wants to go
Okay.
talk about it.
Well, then I'll
Do your last one then.
I'll cover for Highway Superintendent Smith. Number 14, we discussed the authorization for the Highway Department to participate in an auction with Auctions International. They found a used leaf vacuum that's the same vintage as the ones we currently are utilizing. They have a larger 6-cylinder engine that you can't purchase new any longer, and this one has extremely low hours, and he's very interested in adding that to our fleet of leaf vacuums. So that's number 14.
Thank you, Paul.
Number 18, is kind of out of order, but it's a resolution to make budget modifications that were distributed. The largest one was the Trottingham repair, the Imperial Drive repair that just went, is just being completed. It's soon to be paved. And we also discussed, that's not on here, a resolution authorizing the town to advertise for bids for cleaning services at Town Hall and at the Recreation Center. So that's a last-minute write-in. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Number 11 is a resolution to authorize submission of a community forestry grant, a program for the tree inventory. My assistant planner, Clark Henry, has been working really hard on this. We've met with the DEC Forester twice already. We're trying to move forward with a contractor that would be able to finish the street tree inventory that our tree council and volunteers have started. And it is basically the building block of just keeping trees going in the town of Niskayuna and making sure that we understand what we have and where all the emerald ash borers are gonna have the most impact. And this grant requires that the inventory be done by an ISA certified arborist who would be able to also do recommendations on pruning and health. And so I think it would be really beneficial to the town. We're very excited about it. We think that it's probably in the range of $45,000 to $50,000. And we should have that finalized for you by the end of the month. Number 12 is a resolution to make a recommendation for the Knott Street Improvement Project. We have it listed as tentative. It's extremely tentative. It's not very likely to be at the end of November. We still need to do that coordination meeting with all our department heads. But we do want people to know that we're still discussing it and listening and trying to figure out what's the best way forward with that. And so hopefully, if not at the end of November, we'll have something to talk about at the end of December. And then number 13, a resolution to adopt an ADA transition plan. This is also tentative. Alexis has been working with it on it. She's the ADA coordinator. We want to make sure that we give people as much time as possible to comment on it. So I think that it's probably more likely to be in December, but we also want to give it, as much public as we can. So I'm talking about it again. ADA transition plan. It's on the website. Is there anything you wanted to say?
The federal code requires that we include in our transition plan all the public comments and all the public input we received. During our public hearing, we only had one person comment on it. I'm not saying that that's not a reason why we shouldn't pass it, but I think it goes to show maybe we should seek additional efforts to make sure that we're really getting, everyone's input who's out there who has something to say. So that said, perhaps maybe additional information session or something on the website. We don't have a hard deadline on adopting it. Obviously, the sooner the better, but that said, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Matt Yetto.
Number 15 is a resolution to hire a plant trainee at the sewer plant. We've been advertising for a while, slightly modified the position, re-advertised, and hopefully we'll get an applicant. Currently accepting applications, and hopefully we'll have a recommendation prior to the meeting. 16 is we currently have an opening in our water and sewer maintenance crew. That has also been advertised and accepting applications currently, and should have a recommendation for the next meeting. 17 should be changed. It's a change order for to pay CT Mail, not HMA. It was additional inspection services were necessary for a water main project on along Route 7. New York State DOT required additional inspection, so we had to do a change order to CT Mail's contract to cover the cost of the additional inspection. It was $6,900. 18, Paul already did. 19 is just a resolution to authorize a warrant for the third quarter corporate utility rents. 20 is a resolution to award a contract for a company to evaluate our sludge dryer at the sewer plant.
So that'll be
We don't have
21.
20 on here.
We have a 20 already, so give us
Oh,
21.
sorry. I have an old number here. So that would be 21?
Yeah. Well, we don't have that at all here, so we stop at 19, but then Paul added something, so
I have the second page.
we don't.
Okay. Okay, I have one more then. So it's, so 21 would be resolution to award the contract for the inspection and to do an evaluation of our sludge dryer and make recommendations for repairs. 22 would be a resolution to appoint a senior attendant at the transfer station. Currently have Mike Winkler at the transfer station now. He's been providing that role. I just want to acknowledge that and pay him the correct hourly rate,
Which would be 14.
14.
Yep.
Any questions?
Oh, we discussed those at committee.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So without further items on the list, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I will second that motion. All those in favor signified by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're now adjourned for the evening. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a wonderful night.